everybody. This is John with Soundcrave Magazine. I'm here with Neil Fallon from the Mighty Clutch.
Hi.
Thank you for giving us some time today.
No problem.
So before I ask you some questions about the new album and the tour, the first thing I wanted to ask you is, you had to cancel the start of the tour because you were having some surgery.
Yep.
How did that go? How are you feeling?
I'm here. It wasn't that long ago still. It was only 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Had to get some vertebra fused together. Excuse me. But the recovery wasn't as bad as I kind of braced myself for. I just got to be smart and conservative and not throw myself around like I'm 19 years old.
Yeah, exactly. No stage diving for you tonight, I'm guessing.
No.
I know that you guys are kind of known as a real touring band, and you really like to go out there. As much as it probably hurts you to have surgery, I'm sure you guys really hated having to cancel some dates, reschedule some dates, and have to postpone the start of the tour.
Yeah, that's, of course I felt pretty guilty because, one guy's problem created a whole ripple effect for a lot of people, but sometimes that's just life on planet Earth.
Yeah.
So we rescheduled them, and I'm glad we were able to do that.
It looks like you actually managed to schedule almost all of those dates.
Yeah, all but one, and I don't know the reason why we couldn't redo that one, but for us, the live show is a very sacred thing.
Yeah.
And we want, to cancel for any reason is unacceptable.
Yeah.
So.
I'm sure that's especially true now because everything I've heard in the reviews and what I've heard myself from Earth Rocker, the new album that you're out touring to promote, is that it's really tried to capture the vibe of what you're doing in live shows. Yeah,
I've always felt we were great on stage and not so great in the studio.
Yeah.
And Machine, who we've worked with in the past, kind of knew this and asked us to make a set list of what we play live, and he kind of listened to that and for kind of maybe a philosophical approach. But we really, really played these songs over and over again before we went into the studio, which can account for a lot of that live sound you hear on the record. In the past, we had written stuff in the studio, recorded it that day. 9 times out of 10, you usually regret your decisions when you're in that environment. But we're trying to make it a point to be as honest as possible in the studio because it's easy to fake a lot of stuff.
Sure. Well, so working with Machine then on the new album, did you try to limit yourself to 1 take, 2 take, do the best of what was good and raw?
The way he works and a lot of guys work is, speaking for myself, I'll do a bunch of passes. Then I'll leave and I'll go do lunch, and he'll pick the best and compile basically a best of the 4 or 5 takes. Sometimes it's the first take, and I do it from front to end because the stars align that way. That sometimes I stayed out too late the night before drinking, and it takes me 4 or 5 times, and then you just take the best of and then patch together, then sing along to that, and that's really. It's been doing that. That's been done that way for many, many, many years.
Earth Rocker, a lot of people have said, which I think maybe is evident too a little bit when you listen to it, is sort of a return, not a return from oblivion necessarily, but a return to maybe some of the original Clutch roots.
We tried to keep it simple, and just, to answer your question, I could just give you an example of kind of the mindset of it. One of the songs, DC Sound Attack, the opening riff we were playing, and we kind of said, we don't like it because it sounds too much like Clutch. And Machine looked at us and said, well, what's your point?
Yeah.
You are Clutch. And that was a bit of an eye-opener for me because any artist usually, wants to try something new and not just kind of repeat his or herself. It's the same with us. We always want to do something new, but at the same time, you also have to embrace your strengths. And that's kind of what we try to do with this record.
Now that you're back on tour, how is it going so far?
Great. To be honest, it feels like we've been supporting this record for 4 years, but it's only been out since March because we toured quite a bit before its release in Europe, and then we went to Europe this summer and then toured here. And it's great, but we're ready to make another record. And this record has kicked down a lot of doors for us. Went to #1 on iTunes, we put it out on our own label, and that was pretty satisfying and a lot of vindication to be able to do that on yourself.
I wanted to ask you about that too, that after many years of working sort of in the music industry, now you, after 10 albums and over a decade as a band, you now have your own label. How is that working out? What sort of freedoms does that give you, and maybe what sort of problems does that create?
It's great. In this day and age, it's easier than ever to do this because the internet is your A&R representative. It's your distributor. Mm-hmm. It's for digital, at least. And you can run this kind of operation, with just a skeleton crew. That wasn't the case 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
So major labels' woes are our good fortune. And we know what kind of band we are. We're not going to write a massive radio hit. We don't do that. We wouldn't know how to do that if need be. Mm-hmm. So it's just a matter of finding the right people and being honest with yourself and saying, we're not trying to sell the most records. We're just trying to sell the right records to the right people. Like any small business, there's missteps and a learning curve. But we try to be conservative about it. Right. We just signed the first we had done some releases with band side projects where one of us were involved with, mm-hmm. Whether it be the company band or King Hobo. But Lionize, we just signed, and they just finished their record, and it'll be the first time that an outside band is being put out through Weathermaker, and that's pretty exciting for us.
Right, and they supported you on an earlier leg of this tour, too, if memory
Yeah,
serves.
they've supported us a number of times. We've done a lot of tours with those guys.
Right.
They're a fantastic band. They just need to get in front of the right people.
Excellent. Let me ask you one more question, then I'll let you go because I know you got a lot to do. You forayed, of course, you forayed into a lot of areas. Recently, you've gone into the beer area, doing something with New Belgium. Tell us about that.
Well, it was a kind of serendipitous. I just happened to be walking out of a deli in Fort Collins on a day off, mm-hmm. and Eric Salazar, who's the cellar master there, recognized me and asked me if we wanted to go on a tour, and that tour turned into a friendship between he and his guys and us. And they have a Lips of Faith series, which is usually an employee of New Belgium can say, I want to make a beer that's kind of outside the realm of the norm. And this was the first time they went outside of New Belgium to do mm-hmm.
Something
like that. It was a limited run. We didn't want to do an IPA because the market's just flooded with IPAs. We were more into stouts and porters. And one of the things that they were doing was mixing their stout with kind of a creek-style sour ale. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to kind of emulate that. I mean, it's not over-the-top sour, but it was great fun. We didn't just slap our name on it. We went to the brewery and we poured in the hops and the grains and pushed the buttons and wore the silly little goggles. And it was great fun. I hope we can do it again.
Excellent. Well, let that be the last word.
Cool.
Then I appreciate your time. Thanks for giving us a few minutes. Until next time, I'm John with Soundcrave Magazine.